Okay, if you've been watching the financial news this week, you've probably seen some scary headlines. Lower than expected job reports, rising global geopolitical tensions, and global market contagion fears have seemingly merged to create a panic storm. And in times like this, people take some actions that seem like panic is playing out, as we saw the financial markets around the world crash to levels that we haven't seen in many years. People are starting to feel uncertain about the future, their job security, their nest eggs, and in short, fear, it seems, has set in. And actions driven by fear are impulsive, and impulsivity and good decision making rarely go hand in hand. That's why people often sell into the crashes on an emotional impulse and buy into hypes on emotional FOMO, when the best investors do the very opposite, right? They buy when the markets are in the red and down, and they sell when the markets are in the green or up. In times like this, it's worth taking a step back and observing the truth about what is really going on here. Now look, I'm not a financial advisor, but I do study the spiritual principles that underpin the nature of the world we live in. And if we understand these laws, then we can benefit from the confidence, peace, and abundant supply through which we are intended to experience this world we live in. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 4 divine principles that will help you see right through the fear, the panic, and the emotional tumult towards a more abundant reality that will enable you to stay cool, make clearer decisions, and trust in more prosperous outcomes. And my hope is that by the time you finish this video, you will feel far more confident, far more supported and supplied based on the unfailing laws of spiritual supply. Let's go. So I'm living on a farm these days, and part of my responsibilities every morning is to go out there, take care of some of the animals, the donkeys, the dog, the chicken, and then go to the garden and cut off some of the vegetables that have grown, the eggplants, the cucumbers, the basil leaves, the raspberry from the raspberry bushes, the zucchinis. I mean, there's so much growing. And one thing that I've noticed every morning is that there's far more vegetables growing at such a pace than I know what to do with. I can eat part of it, and then there's overflow. And that overflow I then have to chop up and give to some of the animals, and then there's still some abundance of overflow. So what I'm learning is that nature knows no lack. Only us as human beings know lack. But lack is not the nature of the reality that we live in. Let me explain. Now, whether it's the little garden I'm tending or the 200 billion trillion stars that light up the night sky, this is the truth about God and His kingdom. While the world may see lack, competition, and conflict that stems from thoughts of limitation or recession, the kingdom of heaven knows only infinite spirit, infinite blessings, infinite good. Throughout Scripture, God is blessing us abundantly. The land, His people, His creation. God is a loving God who wants us to partake in these infinite blessings. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus calms our worries about the worldly and material needs that we have to live a comfortable and healthy life, right? We need these things to live. And He says, "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." Now, I'd like to be definitionally clear here. The biblical notion of abundance, as I understand it, is different from how we might correlate the term abundance these days with material wealth or riches. There's nothing wrong with the latter, unless it's acquired or used improperly. But abundance in the biblical sense refers to having your needs fully met and then having some left over, some overflow to bless others with. One can be abundant without having an excessive amount of material wealth. Do you see the difference? I just want to be clear about this before I go on. So when we were in the womb, we didn't need to think about where our next meal would be supplied from, right? Our needs were met abundantly. We had everything we needed. You need to think about it. Then and now, we don't even need to know where our next breath of air is coming from or how we will process that air. It is given freely. Our breathing is even automatic, just like our consummation of nutrients and food was automatic in the womb. If the flow of nutrition and oxygen came so naturally to us then the principle of having our needs met today still applies. So in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus asks us to consider how God treats his creation. And he gives us the example of birds and grass. About birds, he says, they don't have to store away and labor intensely for their food. They are supplied daily. He then poses a question. Aren't we so much more valuable to God than this little bird? He then points out the grass on the field and how they are so beautifully clothed in flower petals, right? Referring to flowers, the beauty of which not even the richest man in history, King Solomon, could clothe himself with. And he poses another question to us. If God clothes mere grass that's here today and gone tomorrow with the wind, how much more is he willing and able to clothe you, his precious one? He concludes his point saying, so don't worry. Seek first God's kingdom, his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. Did you notice that he started this by saying, do not worry, and he ended it by saying, do not worry? See, the Bible is a book of very precious real estate, right? And if a line is mentioned twice so close together, it means these repetitions matter. The message is clear. No stress. Divine love is able and willing to meet all your needs. Seek first the kingdom, knock, ask boldly and humbly upon the throne, and it will be given to the one whose heart is after God. The Apostle Paul reassures us in his second letter to the Corinthians where he writes, God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. So you might be thinking as you watch this, okay, Samir, but I don't see this abundance in my bank account. I don't feel wealthy. So where is this abundance that you speak of? It's a very valid question. The more you buy into the fear and the repetitive lies, the more blinded you become to the abundance that is all around you. See, the unnamed author of Psalm 119 expressed a wonderful prayer. Open my eyes that I may behold the wondrous things from your law. Jesus assures us that the kingdom of heaven is here and now. Was he lying just because we can't see it? No, of course not. If we can't see it, it means our spiritual perception is limited by a filter that's too identified with a small understanding of who I am. I.e., I'm too identified with me being simply mortal flesh, living in a limited material world. But you are far greater than just this image. Your perception of reality will change in proportion to your identification as spirit and not material or mortal being. As a child of God, not a product of this world. Then we are able to see more clearly. The things that were previously unseen, they become seen. Jesus reminds us, your eyes are windows into your body. If you open your eyes wide in wonder and belief, your body fills up with light. The truth is that the wonderful opportunities for the good, the amazing, and the incredible are all around us at all times. This fills us with hope and the prospect of a bright future. In the same way that Jesus said, your body fills up with light. The question is, are you seeing reality for what it really is? Or are the goggles of fear and limitation filtering out a much grander, reassuring, and prosperous story of what is happening and unfolding all around us as we speak? In the very beginning, the origin story of the universe and humanity, God declares, "Let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature." Let those words sink in. Made in our image, reflecting our nature. This is the truth of our spiritual essence. We, as the children of God, are designed to reflect and resemble the quality, the attributes of our Father who is in heaven. In this way, we are at one with and inseparable from the infinite source of abundance, the source of endless creation. God's kingdom, which is here and now, can know no lack. Therefore, we too can see past the illusion of this world's limitations or any talk of recession and know no lack. God's nature, His very nature is abundance. Therefore, our spiritual nature must be abundance. The Apostle John quotes Jesus as saying, "Everything my Father has is mine." Everything the Father has is mine. So as we reflect the Christ ideal as sons or daughters of God, we too get to trust that all that the Father has, we have. It's our sacred inheritance. It's our divine birthright. Now, how do we resemble the qualities and attributes of God? We learn to live in harmony with God's will. And there are two ways that I understand that we can do this. The first is through direct relationship with God. For example, through our prayers, our meditations, our contemplations, right? When we sit and have a communion, a conversation with God and relate to Him at a personal level, and then being receptive to the guidance that comes our way by way of intuition, dreams, or signs, or whatever form of communication you feel that you are receiving some guidance. And the second way is to become very familiar with Scripture. Now, I know this is the unpopular one. And at one point in my life, I too was like, really? I got to read this thing. It's thousands of years old. It's been rewritten how many times over and over again? I understand all of those criticisms. I understand why people stay away from Scripture. And I understand how also that much of the reason why people stay away from Scripture is because they've been fed a version of it that is based on fear and shame. But the way I look at it now, based on my own personal grappling with the Scripture and my own personal relationship with the divine, I see Scripture as a record of thousands of years of guidance and promises where God is saying to us, live in this way, the best way, and you will prosper. And here is my guidance to you on how you can live a happy, joyful, freedom-filled life. So instead of a book of shame and fear, as many pundits and pulpit commentaries may make it out to be, I see Holy Scripture more as a framework for freedom, given to us by a loving Creator who wants to see His children prosper. So in Deuteronomy 28, God is very clear. Follow my guidance, and you will be blessed abundantly in your work, your home or family life, your community, your nation, and in all that you do. You will not be on the bottom, you will be at the top. And it doesn't matter if the stock market is up or down, up one day, down the next, you will always be on top. That is the promise if we live according to the will of our Father who is in heaven. That's God's sacred promise to His children. How is that for good news? So I'm curious, what was your favorite, or which of these four most resonated with you? And what does it mean for how you're going to move forward with your life when you're faced with situations where you're challenged with lack? If you found this video reassuring and useful, go ahead and tap the like and subscribe button. It really lets me know what is serving you and what is not. And if you would like to develop your understanding of these laws further and apply them in your life for more successful and abundant outcomes, feel free to get in touch with me via my website, www.nowirise.com or schedule a consultation with me via the link in the description. I care about your well-being. I care about your growth. I care about your success. I want to see you succeed and do so in a way where you're calm, peaceful, confident, encouraged. I would be honored to work with you and see these results through you. Until next time, may peace